Did you know that somewhere beneath the dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean, a fleet of ships may lie in eternal silence? Ships that once belonged to the most powerful and secretive order in medieval history? What if I told you that these vessels didn't just carry gold and silver, but secrets so profound they could rewrite everything we know about the Knights Templar? For over 700 years, historians have debated what happened to the Templar treasure when their order was brutally dissolved in 1307. But what if the answer isn't buried in some forgotten vault or hidden chamber? What if it's been resting on the ocean floor, waiting to reveal the true extent of the Templars' maritime empire? This is the story of a discovery that challenges everything we thought we knew about the Knights Templar. A story of a lost fleet that vanished from history, taking with it not just unimaginable wealth, but the secrets of an organization that once held the power to topple kings. The Knights Templar. Even today, nearly 8 centuries after their dramatic fall, these 3 words conjure images of warrior monks, hidden treasures, and conspiracies that reach into the highest echelons of power. Founded in 1119 to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, as they were officially known, would grow to become the most influential military and financial force of their time. But the Templars were more than just warriors. They were innovators, bankers, and perhaps most surprisingly, master navigators. While history books focus on their land-based exploits in the Crusades, mounting evidence suggests that the Templars possessed one of the most sophisticated naval operations of the medieval period, a fleet capable of traversing vast distances and carrying precious cargo across treacherous waters. Yet when King Philip IV of France moved against the Templars on that fateful Friday the 13th, in October 1307, something extraordinary happened. While Templars across France were being arrested, tortured, and executed, a significant portion of their fleet, along with an estimated 18 ships carrying their most precious possessions, simply vanished. For 700 years, this disappearance has remained one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Until now, the mystery of the Templar fleet begins with a glaring absence in the historical record. When French authorities raided Templar properties in 1307, they expected to find vast treasures. The order was, after all, the wealthiest organization in Europe, serving as bankers to kings and nobles across the continent. Yet the inventories from that night tell a different story, one of surprisingly empty vaults and missing ships. Contemporary accounts from the port of La Rochelle, the Templars' primary naval base, describe a frantic night of activity just hours before the arrests began. Local witnesses reported seeing multiple Templar vessels departing under cover of darkness, their holds weighted heavy, their destination unknown. But here's where the mystery deepens. Mainstream historians have largely dismissed these accounts as folklore or exaggeration. The prevailing academic view has been that the Templars, while certainly wealthy, lacked the maritime capabilities to mount such a sophisticated evacuation. After all, we're talking about the 14th century, an era when ocean navigation was primitive and treacherous. This skepticism has dominated historical discourse for centuries. The Lost Fleet became relegated to the same category as other Templar legends. Intriguing stories with little basis, in fact. Scholars argued that any ships that did escape would have been small coastal vessels, hardly capable of the kind of long-distance voyages that the more sensational theories proposed. But what if the scholars were wrong? What if the evidence was there all along, waiting in archives and archaeological sites around the world, dismissed because it didn't fit the established narrative? Recent discoveries have begun to challenge these long-held assumptions, revealing a picture of Templar maritime operations far more extensive and sophisticated than anyone previously imagined. And at the center of this revelation lies evidence of a fleet whose disappearance may have been one of the most successful escape operations in history. The first crack in the conventional wisdom came from an unexpected source, not from dusty archives or ancient chronicles, but from the depths of the ocean itself. In 2018, marine archaeologists working off the coast of Nova Scotia made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the historical community. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading a team from the Maritime Archaeological Institute, was investigating reported shipwrecks when her team's sonar detected anomalous structures on the ocean floor, structures that exhibited the distinctive construction techniques of medieval European shipbuilding. When divers finally reached the site, what they found defied explanation. Partially buried in the sandy bottom, at a depth of nearly 200 feet, lay the remains of what appeared to be a 14th-century vessel. But this wasn't just any medieval ship. Carved into the surviving timber were symbols that made Dr. Rodriguez's heart race, the distinctive crosses and geometric patterns associated with the Knights Templar. But the Nova Scotia discovery was just the beginning. As word of the find spread through archaeological circles, similar reports began emerging from locations across the Atlantic. A partial wreck off the Azores showing Templar masonry marks. Carved stones found on beaches in Newfoundland bearing the order's distinctive iconography. Ancient anchors discovered off the Scottish coast, their design matching those found in Templar commanderies. Meanwhile, researchers diving deep into European archives were uncovering documents that painted a very different picture of Templar maritime capabilities. A 1294 inventory from the commandery at La Rochelle listed not just a few coastal vessels, but an entire fleet. 18 ships of the line, capable of ocean voyages with provisions for extended journeys. Another document, discovered in the Vatican secret archives, referenced Templar navigation masters and detailed knowledge of distant lands beyond the Western Ocean. Perhaps most intriguing of all was the discovery of what researchers are calling the Templar Navigation Codex, a leather-bound manuscript found sealed in the walls of a Portuguese monastery during restoration work in 2019. Written in the distinctive cipher used by Templar scribes, the codex contained detailed nautical charts of the Atlantic Ocean, including what appear to be accurate depictions of the North American coastline, nearly 2 centuries before Columbus. Dr. James Morrison, a medieval historian at Oxford University who specializes in Templar documents, was among the first to examine the codex. His findings were extraordinary. What we're looking at here completely revolutionizes our understanding of medieval navigation. These charts show detailed knowledge of ocean currents, wind patterns, and geographical features that shouldn't have been known to Europeans for another 200 years. The level of precision is simply unprecedented for the 14th century. But the codex contained more than just maps. Hidden within its pages were detailed inventories of ships, crew manifests, and most remarkably, coordinates for what the text refers to as safe harbors in the western lands. The implications were staggering. The Templars hadn't just possessed advanced navigation techniques, they had established a network of bases across the Atlantic. As researchers began connecting these various pieces of evidence, a pattern emerged. The Templars hadn't simply been warrior monks or medieval bankers. They had been operating what amounted to a sophisticated maritime intelligence network with the capability to move people, treasure, and information across vast distances with remarkable efficiency. Dr. Sarah Chen, a maritime archaeologist from the University of Edinburgh, has spent the last 5 years mapping what she believes to be the extent of Templar naval operations. Her research has revealed evidence of Templar presence at over 30 locations across the North Atlantic, from the Orkney Islands to what is now the eastern seaboard of Canada. We're not talking about random explorations or lucky discoveries. This was a planned, systematic operation. The Templars had clearly been preparing for the possibility of evacuation long before 1307. They had established supply routes, safe houses, and emergency protocols that allowed them to disappear almost overnight. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from an unlikely source: genetic analysis of medieval artifacts found at these Atlantic sites. In 2021, scientists were able to extract DNA from organic materials found in what appeared to be Templar settlements in Nova Scotia and the Faroe Islands. The results were remarkable. The genetic markers matched populations from specific regions of France and England, regions that were home to major Templar commanderies. The implications are profound. Not only did the Templars successfully evacuate their fleet in 1307, but they established permanent settlements in the New World, complete with the infrastructure necessary to support their continued operations. But it was what happened in the summer of 2023 that would provide the most stunning confirmation of the lost fleet theory. A team of deep-sea explorers, working with advanced submersible technology in the waters off Sable Island, Nova Scotia, made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the archaeological world. At a depth of nearly 300 feet, their sonar detected what appeared to be an artificial structure on the ocean floor. Initial images from their remote cameras revealed the unmistakable outline of a large medieval vessel. But this wasn't like the partial wrecks that had been found previously. This ship was remarkably well preserved, protected by the cold Atlantic waters and buried under layers of sediment. But it was what they found inside the vessel that changed everything. Sealed within the ship's hold, protected by what appeared to be waterproof containers made from an unknown medieval technique, were dozens of artifacts that could only have belonged to the highest levels of the Templar hierarchy. Golden chalices bearing the seal of the Grand Master, illuminated manuscripts detailing Templar rituals and ceremonies, and most remarkably, a collection of carved stones that appear to be templates for the construction techniques used in some of the world's most famous medieval cathedrals. Dr. Rodriguez later described the overwhelming emotion that swept over the dive team as they carefully opened that first ancient container. The moment the seal was broken and the contents revealed, she knew they had stumbled upon something that would rewrite the history books. These weren't merely valuable artifacts scattered by chance across the ocean floor. They were looking at the carefully preserved working archives of an organization that had fundamentally shaped European civilization for nearly 2 centuries. In her own words, Rodriguez compared the discovery to finding the legendary Library of Alexandria itself, but with one crucial difference. This library had been perfectly preserved beneath the cold Atlantic waters, protected from the ravages of time that had claimed so many other historical treasures. The significance of what lay before them was immediately apparent to every member of the team, as they realized they were the first people in over 700 years to lay eyes upon these sacred Templar documents and artifacts. But the most extraordinary discovery was yet to come. Hidden within the ship's captain's quarters, researchers found what can only be described as the Templar Master Plan, a detailed strategy document outlining the order's preparation for exactly the kind of persecution they faced in 1307. The document, written in the distinctive hand of Jacques de Molay himself, the last Grand Master of the Temple, detailed an elaborate evacuation protocol involving multiple fleets, predetermined rendezvous points, and contingency plans for establishing new operations in lands beyond the reach of earthly kings. The document was dated October 12, 1307, just 1 day before the mass arrests began. The Templars hadn't been caught off guard. They had seen it coming and had executed one of the most sophisticated escape operations in medieval history. The discovery of the lost Templar fleet fundamentally changes our understanding of medieval history and the true scope of Templar power. These weren't just warrior monks who accumulated wealth through banking and conquest. They were visionaries who understood that their survival depended on their ability to adapt, to remain mobile, and to think beyond the political boundaries of their time. The evidence now suggests that when the order officially dissolved in 1312, it didn't truly end. It transformed. The Templars who escaped in those 18 ships didn't just disappear into history. They established new communities, preserved their knowledge, and continued their work in lands far from the reach of their European persecutors. Consider the implications. If the Templars successfully established settlements in North America 2 centuries before Columbus, how many other aspects of our historical timeline need to be reconsidered? What knowledge did they possess that allowed them to navigate across vast oceans with such precision? And what became of the descendants of those who made that dangerous journey across the Atlantic in 1307? The Lost Fleet represents more than just a successful escape. It represents the survival of an organization that had accumulated nearly 2 centuries of knowledge, wealth, and influence. An organization that understood the value of preparation, the importance of networks, and the power of secrecy. Today, as we piece together the evidence of their maritime empire, we're not just uncovering lost ships and buried treasure. We're discovering a hidden chapter of human history, one that reveals the Templars as perhaps the first truly global organization, operating across continents and oceans with a sophistication that wouldn't be matched for centuries to come. The story of the lost Templar fleet is far from over. Each new discovery raises more questions than it answers. What other secrets lie beneath the Atlantic waves? What happened to the Templar settlements in North America? And perhaps most intriguingly, could descendants of the original escapees still be preserving Templar traditions and knowledge today? We want to hear from you. What do you think happened to the Templars who escaped in 1307? Do you believe they could have established permanent settlements in the New World? Have you encountered any unexplained medieval artifacts or symbols in your own travels that might be connected to this lost fleet? Leave your theories and observations in the comments below. Your insights could be the key to unlocking the next piece of this extraordinary puzzle. Remember to subscribe and ring that notification bell, because the hunt for Templar secrets is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what we uncover next.